In this video, we're just going to take a really quick look at something from the legacy. We'll still be working with World Manager custom tag library.war. That will be all we'll need for this video. So what you'll note at the bottom of this project, I've included a file called old_tld_dd_declaration. So if you're working with JSP in a version less than 2, which most likely you're not in this case, but if you have some legacy code or if you are working for some reason in a container and using JSP less than 2.0, in order to use a tag library, you actually have to manually define it. So to do that, we just use JSP config. So remember we used JSP config before when we were doing scriptless pages. Well, here we're going to use it to set the tag libraries. And so for every tag library we want to include, we have inside the JSP config a tag library declaration, which includes the URI specifically and the hard physical location of that TLD file. So now in JSP 2.0 and greater, our container is smart enough to know that if we reference a tag file in our tag library directive on the page, then what happens is the container says, oh, they're trying to use something called World Manager tags. Here's the URI. Let's look through the entire container and see if we can't find a TLD that has this defined. And if it does find it, of course, then we don't need to have it referenced. This is very similar to what we've seen as well with servlets. In the old versions of servlets, we had to map every servlet right in the web XML. But of course, with the newer version, the newer containers now, that stuff is handled on the parameter tags on the top of our servlet declarations. If we wanted to keep in line with an older version, if we were running this on a container or we were running this in not JSP 2.0 for some reason, we would simply go into our web XML, and on our web XML file, around this area above the welcome file list somewhere, go ahead and set up the JSP config, add in your tag library, have your tag library URI point to whatever you've specifically named it, your tag lib location point to the physical file location on the server in that project directory, and then you can run it. Now, the nice thing is this won't screw anything up if I'm running this on a newer version. So if you're worried about that, it actually won't break it. So we can go ahead and continue to run even with that new web XML file in place. It will still go ahead and work just like we expected. The last time we cleaned out our information here, so let's go ahead and retype it. And of course, we're still not validating anything at this point, but we're getting there. And here we go ahead and sign in, and there's our information. So you can see our tags are still working just like we would expect, even though we now manually define our information in the web XML file, which is in here.